Well, we have Abigail in the studio. Good morning, Abulabi.
Hi, good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Okay, so I'll be taking the Daily Independent newspaper. At the top of it there, we have Senate uncovers how PEF failed to remit interest from 34 billion naira in fixed deposit account. You can continue reading that on page. We can continue reading that on the Daily Independent. Reps query NCDC over payment of 9 billion naira COVID fund into personal accounts. Federal government may fine airlines $3,500 per traveler in reversed protocol. And the rider under that, passengers require 48 hours negative PCR test result. Non-compliant airlines may be banned from Nigeria. UK suspends processing of visitor visa application from Nigeria. All of that can be seen on page 29. And then 8 children found dead inside abandoned car in Lagos. That's on page 2. Sylvester Oromuni's death. Nans accused Dowen College of starting online classes, even though they've been shut down. That can be found on page 2. Zenith Bank GMD Oyago emerges CEO of the year, while the bank wins most responsible organization in Africa. That's also on page 2. 2023 Afghan governors split over Tinubu's presidential ambition. The rider under that says party is a goner, technically non-existent, Senator Hanga says. You can also continue reading that on page 29. Buhari Obasanjo mourn former army chief Wushishi. That's on page 30. And on kidnapping, Uni Abuja overhauls security system, begins the 24 hours campus patrol. That is on page 29 also. And that's everything on Daily Independent.
So moving on to the Al Jazeera newspaper, insecurity is Taraba now haven for terrorists. And the writer under that says, fleeing bandits take abode in Gasol, Bali local government areas. 11 abducted as over 60 kidnappers storm village. We are not aware, local government boss and police says on page 8. White papers on hashtag EndSARS panel report illegal, says Falano. You can read up on page 13. And under the editorial news, Aviation Day, moving the world around, says Aviation Day. And you can also read up on page 2 saying that Buhari, Niger, ACF, and others mourn Wushishi. And under business and economy news, oil industry spent $20.4 on fabrication and engineering. Wabote says on page 23. Under news, 8 children found dead in SUV on page 9. Politics and policy, we need to persuade other religions for Igbo presidency, says Ayima Nezife on page 31 of the Al Jazeera newspaper. And under international news, UK adds Nigeria to Omicron red list. You can read up more on page 12. And under local news, Benway fixes date to unveil new arch. Idoma says on page 10 of the Al Jazeera Nigeria newspaper.
All right, moving on to the Nigerian News Direct. At the very top of the paper, OAU leads in contribution to national development, says Vice Chancellor Ogunbodede. The story is on page 3. Nigerian port operation to go digital by 2025, says MPA. Stories on page 17. Local content. Bontan Energy's LPG plant opens in Castina. You can read up on that on page 2. And boldly written on the front page, COVID-19, return to protocol enforcement looms as fear over Omicron mounts. Federal government laments constraints on vaccine rollout. Scale up safety protocols. Resident doctors to federal government. A UK ban on Nigeria travels take effect today. All this you can read up on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct newspaper. At the very bottom of the paper, Zenith Bank GMD Onyago emerges CEO of the year at Sarah CSR African Awards 2021. You can read up on page 2. Reactions show Nigeria's drop to 14th position in Africa's investment destinations ranking. Yeah, you can read up on that also on page 29. Emir of Kano, Governor orders hail Dangote's contributions to Nigeria's economy. You can read up on that on page 2. And on the front page there, we could see the picture of the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ajia Aminu, receiving receiving an award from Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu during the country's visit to the governor's at Lagos House of Lagos House Marina recently. Yeah, that's it. And of course, we have other pictures there. You can go through when you get the paper.
All right, I'm moving on to the leadership newspaper. On the old tide, travelers weighs option as airfares skyrockets. You can continue reading that on page 7. Direct primary debate. We must avoid repeat of third term situation. REC warns, says controversy may derail electoral reforms. INEC worried other key areas in the bill overshadowed by direct primary debate. All of this is on page 4 of the leadership newspaper. Reps query NCDC over diverted 9 billion naira COVID-19 fund. That is on page 6. APC clears Ekiti Council polls. That is on page 6 also. And CJN, I beg your pardon, speaks on state of judiciary Wednesday. That is on page 8. BUK unveils 15,000 naira student job scheme. That is on page 11. And still the recurrent story is the Zenith Bank GMD emerging the CEO of the year. That is on page 28. And police begin probe of 8 children found dead in a parked vehicle in Lagos. You can continue reading that also on page 7 of the leadership newspaper. That's about it.
Okay, so moving on to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, special report as experts decry 7.2 million price tag on federal government's low-cost flat. You can read up on page 8. Senate uncovers how PEF placed 34 billion naira in fixed deposits accounts without remitting interest. All of this can be found on page 27. 8 children found dead inside vehicle in Lagos, page 26 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Abuad and US-based foundation set to perform free or open heart surgeries on page 25. 72 lecturers to become senior advocates of Nigeria on Wednesday, page 27 of the Nigerian Tribune. Zenith Bank GMD named CEO of the year, page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune. And the major headline as regards Omicron variant says UK suspends processing of visitor visa applications from Nigeria. Residents traveling from Nigeria to pay the sum of $2,285 for 10 days quarantine. You can read up more on page 27. Why Nigeria must be restructured, Tambuwa says, and set to unveil presidential bid on page 22. 75% of human diseases originate from animals, Veterinary Council acting registrar says on page 27. Nigerians to pay more as shipping lines set to increase cost of freight insurance on page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Over Dowen College, 16,000 signed petition seeking prosecution of those involved in Sylvester Oromoni's torture and death. We are open to investigation, says schools management on page 26. Father of 3 arrested at Abuja airport for ingesting 96 pellets of cocaine on page 26. And finally, over corruption, EFCC ramps up prosecution of former governors. You can read up more on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
All right, moving on to the New Telegraph newspaper. At the very top of the paper, tax. Federal government generates 1.34 trillion naira from CIT in 9 months. On the rider to the story says 103.24 billion naira received from financial institutions. The story is on the front page and you can continue reading on page 3. Nigeria's economy to normalize in 2022, says Vetiva. The story is on page 24. You can read up on that. Electricity subsidy, more CBN of action. Electricity subsidy, more CBN action needed to reduce tariff burden on Nigerians, says expert. The story is on page 2. Alleged economic sabotage. DSS arrests CPC Chair General Dambazo. The story is on page 4. You can read up on that. Zenith Bank boss named CEO of the year. Leader emerges most responsible organization in Africa. The story is on page 3. You can read up more on that. 2 years after Oji Uzokalu recalls Kuje experience. The story is on page 8. You can read up. And the major headline there says UK-US ban throw Nigeria's air travel into chaos. Travelers seek alternative route as deadline takes effect today. UK suspends visitor visa processing for applicants from Nigeria. US released new protocols restricting international travels. Canada rejects COVID-19 certificate from Nigeria and 9 other nations. All this you can read up on pages 2, 3, and 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper. PEF didn't remit interest on 34 billion naira fixed deposit, says Senate. A says agency remitted 82 million naira of 182 million naira accused interest. Reps query NCDC over payment of 9 billion naira COVID-19 intervention fund into personal account. This you can read up on pages 3 and pages 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And at the very top bottom of the paper, JAMB to clear backlog of illegal admissions, bars CBT centers from selling UTMEs e-pins, kidnapping Uni Abuja deploys hunters, vigilantes on 24-hour patrol. This you can also read up on pages 2 and pages 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And at the very bottom, study had revealed that long-term pollution linked with high blood pressure. You can read up on that on page 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper.
And then we have the national economy. Nigeria's food import bill gobs 3% of $44.8 billion total imports and mounts pressure on Naira. The story is to be continued on page 4. 40 million active mobile line owners have no bank account. You can find out the details also on page 4 of the national economy. And then we have, of course, the Zenith Bank's GMD named CEO of the year. That is on page 15. Retirement savings account data recapture will address irregularities. Pencom is saying on page 5. And then you also have the leader to watch, Mobola Faloye, investment experts at Standard Chartered Bank Nigeria. That's it.
Moving on to the Daily Times newspaper, Omicron UK government reads listing of Nigeria ill-advised federal government. It says move with multiple impact on commerce, disrupt activities during Christmas and New Year festivities. UK government suspends visitor visa application processing from Nigeria. You can read up all of this on page 3. Serap asks God to stop Buhari and others from shutting down telecoms. Page 4 of the Daily Times newspaper. Tears as bandits release over 60 emaciated worshippers kidnappers in Kaduna State. Page 6 of the Daily Times newspaper. Senate uncovers RPF fixed deposited 34 million naira without remitting interest. You can read up more on page 3. That's it.
Okay, and lastly, we have the Daily Times newspaper. At the very top of the paper, Senate uncovers how pair fixed deposited 34 billion naira without remitting interest. The story is on the front page and you can continue reading on page 3. And the major headline there says, Omicron, UK government red listing of Nigeria ill-advised federal government. And the writer to the story says, move will have multiple impact on commerce, disrupt activities during Christmas and New Year festivities. UK government suspends visitor visa applications processing from Nigeria. Okay, the story is on the front page. Then you can continue reading also on page 3. Sarab asked courts to stop Buhari others from shutting down telecoms. Yeah, the story is there and you can continue reading on page 4. Tears as bandits release over 60 emaciated worshippers kidnapped in Kaduna. The story is on page 6 and you can continue reading. The stories that you can continue reading on page 6. Okay, and that will be all on the newspaper review. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for listening. And tomorrow is going to be another edition of the newspaper review from 9:30 to 10 a.m. here every day on Lagoon Radio. Thank you very much, Abigail. Thanks for being a part of the show. And thanks to you, Konyisola Alao. And don't forget to like and follow us on all our social media platforms. On Facebook is at Lagoon Radio Nigeria. On Instagram and Twitter is at Lagoonradio.Ng. You can also listen via our website on www.LagoonRadio.Ng. To download the Lagoon Radio app, it is very, very much available on Google Play Store and App Store, irrespective of the device that you use. Coming right after now is the Moment of Truth by the Venerable Henry Adelego by 10 a.m. My name is Taiwo Adeola Shabiolibi. Good morning once again.
Good morning.